Welcome to the WagerTalk Studios. I am Finn, host of this WagerTalk TV National Football League programming, Fade It with Finn. And let me begin by, again, thanking all those to take a minute of your day to drop by the WagerTalk portal and listen to me offering up my op-ed on the NFL's upcoming slate of games. And at this time of the season, typically all of the games have postseason implications, obviously some larger than others. For those of you who are regulars of my taping and Fade with Finn, let me also start by mentioning that I dropped by the show's comments section and I interacted with a handful of the messages. All really, I'm surprised. I typically, when I have an 0-2 run, we had one before. I think we had it in week 2. It's been a while. But when that happens, there's typically some haters out there. And I usually, on Twitter, I get a few drive-bys, and I've had to make a couple of trips to the emergency room to remove shrapnel and such from those drive-bys. But that's part of the business. So I'll hit that board before game time on Sunday morning and give you any updates or changes in personnel, possibly weather. And I don't do this. I was just talking to the producer, Chris Allen, and I don't do that because to make me look good or the company wants those things done. I interact because I care about, I don't do this. I've used the analogy. I don't just throw darts and tell you guys where the darts landed. That's not how I operate, and it's just not how I ever operated, nor will I ever operate, or there'll be other things I need to be doing with my life. So last week's Fade It with Finn, the duo failed in full color. I'm not going to spend time mentioning that the Steelers played better than their final score, and maybe a bounce or two of the ball makes that final score different, because that applies to almost every game, every weekend. So we're not going to go there. I won't even talk about I will say this. The injury to the mission-critical source of success for the Bengals needs to be active if they're going to be the best they can be, and that's Chase, who is out for a while. That's really damaging, to Burrow in that offense. And we'll see more over the next 4 or 5 games that he's out of action. So our first team in Week 9 to spotlight and place in the Fade container is going to be one of the 2 Tampa teams we're going to talk today, a Tampa Bay squad that continues to get they continue to get love. And while reputation and history mean something, it's time to position the Bucs troop where they really belong. And in truth, that's really not a home favorite against the reigning Super Bowl champions. Not that the Rams have been absolutely over the top great, in that road to defending that crown. They've struggled, and a lot of this goes down to coaching. Some of it's the front office. Some of the Rams' struggles are to the trades they've made to get where they were to have won last year's Super Bowl, and the times of being in that position earlier in that organization and coaching young coaches' career. So, listen, the Rams are averaging less than 17 points a game. They have the second worst tailback attack, rushing attack in the league. And the offensive line is really a makeshift offensive line. They've had injuries. They've made some adjustments. They've moved some players back and forth, up, down, outside, inside, you name it. And it would seem that maybe perceptually that the Bucs are the play here at home against some of the issues that the Rams have, especially off that arse kicking by a well-coached San Francisco 49ers team that is always difficult for me to put my arms around because of Shanahan and what he does and the things he does on game day that aren't anything close to being historical or status quo for him, should I say. He's one of those guys. Some guys they just have their pulse on him, and some don't. I'm one of those that don't, although I will say that they survived the Trent Williams left tackle injury beyond measure. Beyond, I cannot tell you how well they survived that. Part of that was the opposition, part of the schedule, part of the fortuitous, should I say. They survived. And I don't care what you say, the best don't always win. And the worst don't always lose in this league. And that goes for every single franchise. The Buccaneers are not capable in the form they're in and with the player personnel that they have to fit what Tom Brady does and what he needs as far as surrounding parts and complementary parts, be it to be successful throwing the football. This offensive line can't pass protect, and no quarterback in the league is throwing the ball after the snap, upon snap, in such quick order as Tom Brady. Just right at 2 seconds, he's holding the ball before he releases it on average. If he holds it much longer than that, it's not a good situation for the Buccaneers. It's a situation for the Bucks, the offense, for Brady, and the receivers that have been in and out, and that he has absolutely no timing with right now, and no relationship. No, even though some of these guys have been there the 2 years he's been there, so it doesn't matter. Yesterday's price, the old saying that yesterday's price isn't necessarily today's price applies. And what you did yesterday doesn't mean you're going to do it again today. Now, this Buccaneers team's on a 3-game losing streak. They have combined for a total of 21 points against the Steelers and the Panthers in 2 of those losses. They have lost 5 of the last 6. They've acquired and accumulated defensive injuries since, including those 2 really important pieces, Shaquille Barrett, and 3 of the pieces in the defensive secondary. I could go on and on with this and talk about the Rams, but this Rams team defensively is better than this Buccaneers team, although the Buccaneers still rate higher than the Rams as far as metrics go. It's just health-wise, situational-wise, they're much more capable of making life absolutely miserable for Tom Brady. Fade number 1 is Tampa Bay Buccaneers on Sunday as anywhere between a 1.5, 2-point to 3-point favorite over the visiting Los Angeles Rams. And as always, no break, no rest for the weary. We go right into fade 2. The second team will fade, or at least the second team that I'm going to cover. And that team's the other Bay team, the other two Tampa Bay fades, and that's the Packers, the Green Bay Packers. And I have a ton of respect for Aaron Rodgers, even as queer as he can be. And I don't mean that in a loving way. I mean, he's a different individual. You don't come out of Stanford or play on the West Coast there in Berkeley as the best quarterback in college football, or one of the best. I think that class, he's the best. And be as smart as he is and not be different than most NFLers, most coaches, most front offices, for that matter. But they're in the same position that Tampa Bay's in. This is a Packers team that is not just playing poorly. They're drowning, absolutely drowning. I was terribly disappointed in them at the break, at the trade deadline. They came into the season knowing that, and if you looked at some of the futures and the win totals and the odds on them winning, the black and blue, it not like past seasons, not like past years. They're on the first 4-game losing streak since 2016. That's quite a few years ago. And in truth, guys, there have been signs as we've played out this season. They haven't really been the same. If you think back, they haven't been the same since coming out of halftime in London with the lead that they had, and looking like they, just sat down around the hooch and were smoking some opium or something, because they were slow, they were asleep, and since then they really haven't been the same. Rodgers has not one single receiver that can separate from a good defensive secondary He has some big receivers, some good receivers in the red zone, and they can't stay healthy. Be it tight end, be it that whole cast of characters. They don't run the ball that well. They're not doing anything really, really well. And this defense is highly acclaimed and highly touted stop unit in the preseason. One that performed pretty well last year hasn't lived up to that hype either. And again, part of that hype comes with if Aaron Rodgers had his offense that he had 2 years ago or even last year, the defense would be performing better because they're not on the field as much. This team defense has been on the field way, way too much, and Packers offense haven't been producing like we expect them to under Rodgers. Now they're playing at 1-6 Lions. The truth is they're losers of 5 in a row. Okay, there's some coaching decisions that probably have changed a lot of things that would have been for the Tigers, and hence we saw coaching change. Dan Campbell lost his job, right? It cost him his job. The one thing that Detroit can do, one thing actually Detroit's better at right now than Green Bay, and that's they can score. They have the pieces to keep a defense on their heels, rattled, guessing. And that's what's going to happen. Green Bay is going to travel to Ford Field. The weather's going to be fine. And while this Detroit defense is arguably, I can make it's the worst in the NFL, Green Bay doesn't have the pieces to attack the places that they're soft in, which is their secondary. I expect Detroit to hold serve at home. I expect Green Bay to have a 5-game losing streak in the second fade. And in the first fade, the Rams, albeit I think it's going to be a battle and a fight for them to be at 10-7, 11-6 this year, and be considered a contender to repeat and defend their title. Green Bay is going to miss the playoffs, guys. And at this point in time, if you can get in on some futures, et cetera, we'll talk more about this maybe when we have more time. And this video is not that long, or not supposed to be as long as I'm probably making it today. 2 fades, the fades. The Fade It with Finn dynamic duo this weekend in Week 9 of the NFL is the Tampa Bay brothers, Tampa Bay Bucks, Green Bay Packers. Thanks for dropping by. Don't forget, I'll have all my NBA, all my NFL, all of my college up, and I'm going to price them specially just for this group that drops by. How will you know? Because you can't miss. I'm going to price it the same way for everybody. See you next week.